It's not that I'm expecting anything nasty, but more so because sometimes people are speaking to the husband or the wife, or they're eating in the background and the noise interferes. So I've muted everyone, but certainly if there's an opportunity towards the end to unmute you and ask questions, I'll do that, subject to how we're doing for time. So welcome everyone, and thank you very much, Joanne Dannon, for joining us today. Joanne, I'm going to unmute you if that's okay, because you'll sound so much better. And by the way, you can click on, and there you go. And you'll sound so much better, of course, if you're unmuted. I sound a lot better when I'm muted, and I certainly look better when the video's off. Joanne, you're from Sydney. Moved to Melbourne a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Firstly, perhaps we'll start off with a couple of questions just about how you're coping with COVID and the distance from parents.
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest bit, is that we are in lockdown and I haven't seen my parents since Sukkot last year, which has been really difficult. Well, in person, so that's been a little bit difficult. As for coping with COVID, I think we're okay. I think the hardest bit for me is that I can't write. It's just too much. Having everyone at home and it's just too much. But that's okay. I'm here. I'm actually really happy. I just want to say thank you to everyone for taking time out of their day to listen to me. That's really nice. It's nice to see like friends and family here. So thank you. It's really, really nice. Thanks. And so thanks Joanne, for inviting me.
You're welcome. So currently you're actually homeschooling, are you?
I am homeschooling and home businessing with Jacques, working from home. So it's very busy here.
Okay. Now, you've been a writer for many years.
Yes.
What motivated you to begin writing?
I hate you know what? I actually really hate this question. I don't know. I actually don't know. I just started writing because I loved reading. I think if you don't love reading, you can't be a writer. And so what I started doing was writing the stories that I wanted to read, because I couldn't find the stories that I wanted to read. So I started writing them. So I started back in 2005 or 2006, and I was first published, it took me about 9 years, and first published in 2015.
Right.
So it's a long journey to be published.
Where do you get your ideas for inspiration?
Okay, so everyone likes to know this question, so I hope it's okay. I'm actually going to talk about some of the books that I've written and where I got the inspiration, because people seem to really like that. So I get inspiration from everywhere. So I'll be reading an article in a newspaper, or I'll see something. A lot of the things that I get a lot of inspiration from are those little videos that come around on social media. But also what's going on in real life. And so the thing is that I won't just use one idea. I often use multiple things that are happening out, and I can use up to maybe 6, 7 different ideas in one book. So my most popular book is called Kissing Under the Spotlight, and it features a superstar, someone like Michael Bublé, who I love. Everyone who knows me knows how much I love him. And I kept thinking to myself, what would happen if he walked into the room? Okay, if he walked into the room, I'd go there, and I wouldn't be able to talk to him, and I'd probably run out, because I'd just be like, oh my gosh, there's my hero who I love. So then I thought, well, what if I put that into a book? And I was thinking, okay, so how do you get to meet someone like Michael Bublé, who's got this massive troupe and he's a superstar? How are you going to go and meet him? So then that's how I started getting the ideas for the book, and I created a heroine who is his physio. And so she comes in as an emergency physio. So of course she loves him, and she just acts like a complete idiot around him, because that's how I would have reacted. So she stumbles over her words, she falls over, and it's just funny. And so she gets to meet the guy that she absolutely idolizes, and she just makes a complete fool of herself. So that's how I sort of started with that book. That's actually probably become my most popular book. The other one, which I really liked, is called Finding Love. Another actor who I absolutely love, who people who know me know how much I love him, is Sam Heughan from Outlander. And he was raising money And he said, if you want to come on a date with me, you can win a date with me. To win a date, you've got to put in an entry and you've got to make a donation to a charity. So when I saw that, I went, you know what? I'm going to use that in a book. And that's what I did. And that was the basis for the book of Finding Love, that the guy that she had this massive crush on, who is now a Hollywood superstar, was saying, if you want to win a date with me, you put in an entry, and that's how it went. That was the basis of the book. I know that you also asked me about that. This is a question you're going to be asking me about my Jewishness. Yeah, so I'm going to start. So for those who know me, know that I went to Israel back in 2014, and it was a life-changing experience. And so I used a lot of what I did in Israel in my books. So I've written Hanukkah books and Christmas books and books set in Israel, and all the things that I did in Israel, all the brilliant stuff, I put it into a book. So we went, all the stuff that tourists do. So you go floating in the Dead Sea, it's in the book. You get covered in mud, it's in the book. You go to the Shuk, for example, it's in the book. Everything that I did, all the experiences that I did in Israel are in the book, in my books that I write. So that's where the inspiration comes. And everyone likes to know, do I get inspiration from my husband? I know he's listening, so sorry. But no, because otherwise I would have all my heroes being 6'4", like Midnight Oil. So no, they're all different. All my heroes are different.
But he is a romantic, no doubt.
I don't know. He's.
I must confess, I haven't personally read any of the books. I have to be up front. I know that a couple of them have been circulated by the Rabbinical Council of Victoria.
That's okay. You're not really my target audience.
That's where I was going, and I was going to. Very good. You've jumped the gun. I was going to ask, am I your target audience? And if not, who is?
My target audience are generally women, because generally women like to read romances, but it's really anyone who likes romance books, but generally women. And it's any woman. There's no specific woman or specific. If you like romance, you'll like my books. That's it. That's pretty easy. Yeah.
Well, that sounds familiar. Some Jewish themes there. Tell us a bit about your Hanukkah series.
Oh, I love my Hanukkah series. So I've got 3 books, and they're all set in New York with Jewish characters celebrating Hanukkah. So whereas I've got my other books are Christmas books, surprisingly, my Christmas books are really popular, which makes me laugh. I'm Jewish, I've never celebrated Christmas. But I take the joy of Hagim and I just make it Christmas. So that's how I do Christmas books. But I basically had all my books set in New York, and they're celebrating Hanukkah. So they're Jewish celebrating Hanukkah, and they're falling in love thanks to the Magic of Hanukkah. So my last Hanukkah book, I based it on all the good things that I did while I was in New York. So I was in New York in July last year for a romance writers conference, and I did some amazing stuff. So I went to the Jewish Museum, I went to the delis, I tried a knish. I had no idea what a knish was. I know everyone seems to know what it is. I didn't know what it was. I went to, where did I go? Washington Square Park. I had falafel there, and all of that is in the book. So all the experiences that I did, I put it into the book, and I had my hero and heroine going on dates, trying a knish, all the things that I did, they're in the book. And that was really fun. And so they're doing Hanukkah stuff. Like, they're going to Hanukkah in the park, and they're lighting candles, and they're having donuts, and it's just fun. So the romance I write, it's all happy. They all, it's like a happy romance. There's no angst and
Yeah. And you mentioned you've gone to Israel a number of times, or once?
No, well, twice. So when I was in my early 20s, and then recently a few years ago.
So in 2014, you went to a conference in Israel?
Yeah, it was a women's conference. Yeah.
Did that give you any inspiration for your writing?
Not really. What it did is that it opened up my eyes to Israel, and I got to have these amazing experiences. And so we're in Jerusalem, and then we went around, and we just, we went to Svat, and we just saw all these amazing things. And all the things that I saw, I just made little notes of everything, took 1 million photos, and then I used that in my book. So when my hero and heroine go out on a date, they're going to places that I've actually been to. And in one of the Christmas books, the family actually run a tour company, and that was based on the tour guides that I had met while I was in Israel. And I kept in contact with them, and they sort of gave me some advice and help on how to be a tour guide in Israel. So all of that is in the book. So I always say to people as a joke, just be careful what you say to me, because there's a good chance I'll stick it in a book.
I've stopped my questions. Now, you mentioned earlier, I can't remember if it was before we just started, when we were speaking with Paul, or at the start of this, that you said you've got Sephardi background.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Does that in some way influence the style of writing? Is it different than an Ashkenazi author would write?
I don't think so, but it did. So in my Hanukkah books, well, they're eating Sephardi food, and I use like Sephardi names, and although I don't specifically say it, if you're looking, you'll see that it's all there. So they're having donuts with halva in them, for example. So yeah. So if you look for it, you'll see it, and you'll see the names, but I don't specifically say Ashkenazi, Sephardi. I don't go into that. But if you look at what they're eating and who the family is and how they are, you'll see it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Now, I've seen quite a few films of writers where they get this right. Sorry, I haven't seen any movies ever in my life. Let's take that back. But I've heard of movies where writers get writer's block, and I can picture some scenes where they're sitting in a country cabin trying to get inspiration and so on. Do you get writer's block?
No.
Where do you do your best writing?
No, I'm really lucky I don't get writer's block at all. I love writing. Writing is brilliant. Like, it just takes me into this beautiful world where, you know, it's happy and you don't have all of this angst that goes on in real life. So the only time I can get, I wouldn't say writer's block, but sometimes where I get a little bit stuck is where I feel that it's really not moving. Like, I can write the story, but it could be better. And that's when that happens. I'll call up one of my author friends, and we'll either have a chit chat on the phone, or if we weren't in lockdown, we would go down to the beach and take our dogs for a walk and have a chit chat and have a brainstorm and go, okay, what's a good way of moving forward? So that's the only time I've ever had writer's block, where I felt that the story wasn't good enough, and I wanted to just bring something more to it. I know that some authors get writer's block. I don't. I'm really lucky. I don't. I can just keep writing. I've got a million stories in my head. I just write everything down. I just have so much to write. And no, I've never had a time when I went, I can't write. Like, there's nothing coming out.
Is writing a daily thing or a weekly thing? It's daily.
It has to be. It has to be. And that's what's really hard for me at the moment, is that it's very hard to write, because I have my lovely husband right next door with the TV on, the radio on, talking on Zoom. I've got the kids coming in nonstop going, I'm starving, can you feed me? Or can you do this for me? So forget that. If we weren't in lockdown and everyone was back to normal, I get up early in the morning and I usually write then, because that's when the words just flow out. So I'm often at my desk at 5 in the morning and I just write and write and write, get the kids ready for school. But there's always just so much to do during the day. So I just find if I bang out, I don't know, a couple of thousand words in the morning, at least I know that I've got that. If I keep, that's how I can write 65,000 words, I don't know, in about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, thereabouts.
So, Joanne, are we in your office at the moment?
We are.
So, without COVID, is your office ever the beach or a park, or is your office always there?
How do you mean? Like, this is where I live.
So, do you prefer writing in?
Yeah.
In that room rather than outside? Okay.
Sometimes I'll go outside, which is really nice, but because keeping in mind this is a business and this is all ergonomically set up because I write non-stop, that if I was sitting like on the beach, which is very nice, or to go to a park, I get severe pains on my wrists if I do that too much. So where I'm sitting, it's all ergonomically set up. I've got a special keyboard. I've got a nice big screen here. If I don't have that, it starts causing me problems. And in keeping in that, I actually go and have regular massages for my neck and my hands because I type so much. Like I just write and I'm at my keyboard so much that I have to.
Now, I'm thinking of becoming a romance novelist myself, but we'll return to the process. Thanks very much, Carmel. We'll return to the process shortly, but I want to pick up on something you said. On occasion, you've rung an author friend. Have you ever published something and then thought afterwards, oh, gee, I would have written that differently? Yes.
No, never. No. I'm happy. Even with my first book, No, I'm happy with everything that I've written. I think what's important is you've got to have a really good editor. If you don't, and I was just talking to someone recently about this, another author who is a friend, and we were talking about the importance of editing. A good editor will make your book shine. So the process is that once I've written the book, it goes through an editor. The editor, she looks at it, will highlight bits that maybe she thinks needs to be redone. She doesn't rewrite it. She may say, I'm not happy with this scene. It's not working for me, and give her reasons why. And then I'll rewrite it. Sometimes I resend it to her. Other times that's it. Then I get, I'll do a final edit, and then I send to a proofreader who goes through and looks for final typos to make sure that it's picture perfect. And then it gets published. So it does go through a bit of a process, but no, I wouldn't put out anything that I don't love. I'm happy with everything that I've done.
Right. So coming back to that process, I think you've answered much of it because, as you know, I fancy myself as a bit of a romance novelist. So you actually write. You probably review it several times before it goes to the editor, or you?
Yeah.
You do it till the stage where you're happy with it.
Yep, definitely.
To the editor. And how many times does it go to the editor?
It depends. Generally once. I think I'm at this stage. I think when I was a newer writer, maybe only one book where the editor was not happy with it, and she went through her reasons why she wasn't happy, and she said, you need to rewrite substantial amounts of this book, which I think I had a heart attack because I actually thought it was good. And I reflected on it and I went, you know what, she's right. So then I went back and did a massive rewrite, and it went back to her. And then she said that was probably one of the best books that I'd written. So I think, a good editor, you have to trust your editor. And if your editor says it's bad, you've got to listen to them, but you got to also listen to the reasons why. And I don't think there's ever been a time when my editor has said it's bad, and on reflection, I thought that I was right. I've always agreed with her in the end. And with respect, that's what I pay her for. I pay her to make sure that my book is good. She's part of my fan. I mean, she's there to support me.
Now, you keep on referring to she, so the editor for any book would have to be the sort of target audience?
No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Right.
No, it doesn't matter. It's just that my editor just happens to be female. She's amazing. She's in America. Why I like her is that my audience is actually predominantly in America. And so she picks up on some of my Australianisms. So for example, I mentioned that my heroine was going out wearing jeans and a singlet. And she went, no, you can't wear a singlet because that's what babies wear. So I put her into a tank top. So little things like that. The Americans are where I sell my most books. So I make sure that anything that they would look at and go, I take out. And so she's really good. But she loves what I write. And that's why I love working with her as well. And she's insightful and she's got really great insights. And I think she makes my book shine.
Right. So coming back from the editor, you then, I guess this is all electronic.
Yep.
She's marked up stuff.
Yep.
You've made relevant changes. It doesn't go back to her. You said typically.
No, unless I think it needs to, but most of the time it doesn't. I've done 28 books and I think only 2 books out of 28 have gone back for a second round.
And then you send it straight off to a publisher?
No. Well, firstly, I self-publish. I actually send it to a proofreader and she does a final read and she reads every word, makes sure there's no grammatical mistakes. I have my books in UK English, not US English. So she just checks all the typos, the spelling, everything is perfect. And I actually am self-published. So the reason I'm self-published is I didn't want to be self-published. I wanted to go through a publisher. And this is back, keeping in mind when I started, self-publishing was not quite a big thing as it is now. And all the major publishers rejected my books, and especially the one that I was talking about before, about the Meeting the Michael Bublé. And ironically, almost every publisher who I spoke to back in 2014 who rejected that book, they actually don't exist anymore, surprisingly. They're all gone. All these big publishers, they're all gone. And the thing is, I just had belief in this book. I really loved it. And they said, we don't want you to have a hero who can sing and dance. And I'm like, but I love Michael. I want my hero based on Michael. And they went, no. And I knew that I was ready to be published. I've been writing for 9 years. The book had been edited. It was good. It was a good book. And I couldn't get anyone to publish it. So I self-published it. And ironically, that is like my biggest selling book. Like, it's so popular. Every romance publisher didn't want to sell it, didn't want to take it on.
Now, if you started a book today, when, at what date will you self-publish that book?
It depends. So, for example, now, if we weren't in COVID lockdown, I would be writing a Christmas book. And I would turn it around probably in about 6 weeks because they're a little bit shorter. People, I found, women love Christmas books, especially in America. They actually read Christmas books all year round, and they tend to like a shorter Christmas book. So it's about 25,000 words. So I can write that within 2 weeks. So then by the time it goes back and forth to the editor, proofread, upload, done. If I didn't have to feed my family, I could get it done even quicker, or even feed myself. I could do it within a week.
It's pretty good. Now, I must admit, I don't fancy myself as a J.K. Rowling, but is a person who self-publishes able to get enough money to justify full-time?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Right.
So this is I don't like talking about finances, if that's okay, because that's like me asking everyone else how much they earn. There are two different types of authors. You have the author who just wants to write the book and just for the pleasure of it and just have it out there. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, both, it's fine. It doesn't matter what type of author you are. Or you can be the author who wants to try and have a career out of it. And that's like what I do. And by having a career means you've got to work really hard. You've got to do ads. You've got to build up a reader fan base. So for example, I send out a weekly newsletter to my readers. I answer all the emails that I get from them myself. I do my own Facebook ads, and I'm on social media nonstop pushing, I wouldn't say pushing my books, but promoting myself. So for example, I did something this morning talking about that I'm coming here to do a talk. I sent out a newsletter last night. So it's full on. So the amount of work that I do marketing myself is almost more than the actual writing itself.
Got it.
Yeah. So it just depends on what type of author, and both are correct. Both answers are correct, but you need to know what type of author you are. So then you know how much time. So some people just want to write books, and if they sell books, great. If they don't, they're happy with that. That's okay.
In a moment, I'll open this up to questions, but one more that comes to mind is you've mentioned your target audience, largely women who are interested in romance, and you've now said that most of your readers are in the US. Do you get metrics then from which countries they're from? Yeah.
Amazon's really good. So it gives me a breakdown of where all the sales come from and where the readers are.
Right. And
so I can see everything.
Are they all from English-speaking countries?
Yeah, generally. I do have some readers from France and from Germany and from India. Like there's a couple of other, but the sales are lower there. Yeah. I've tried targeting some ads, but I've just found that most of the time that most of my sales still come from the US. Also the UK is big. Australia's kind of getting there. They lag behind.
Are people thirsting, and I'll open it up now, are people thirsting for this sort of novel, this sort of story now, particularly now in fairly dark times since March?
I think so. I think people read romance they know that, okay, it may be predictable, but that's what a romance is. The hero and heroine have to end up together. If they don't, it's not a romance. So I always use Titanic as an example. He dies, she doesn't. Not a romance, okay? It's got a love story, but it's not a romance. The books that I write and all the other romance writers write is that they end up together. And the thing is that readers of romance will read a lot of books. So I have a lot of my readers, they read a book a day. 1 book a day, sometimes 5 books a week. So once they get through all my 28 books, they want to read other books. So I promote other readers. And I think that that's the way that we should be doing. And so people like escapism. They like to read and just get away from. So yes, it is bad. Now we're in ISO and people are, you know, in curfews and they can't get out as much. But I think that people just always just like reading as well. It's an escapism.
Okay, got it. Well, thank you very much. I'm now opening up. I've done a lot of the asking. I'm now opening up so people can unmute themselves. If it becomes unmanageable, I may have to mute people just to allow. But perhaps wave with your hand if you'd like to ask a question. We've got Susie. We'll kick it off with Susie, and otherwise, and then we've got Gary, who also, by the way, is a writer. I should have introduced you. But otherwise, send a chat if you've got your screen off and therefore I can't see your camera off and then I can't see you. You can send a chat. But we'll kick it off with Susie. Susie, if you unmute yourself first, please. And where are you? No, I think you've turned off. Susie, where are you? I think you've turned off your camera rather than unmute. So if you turn camera back on again, it'll be easier. There we go. And unmute. No, that's the camera. So the unmute, by the way, will actually be next to the stop and start video. It'll be the one just to the left of that, if you're on a computer. In the meantime, Gary, if you don't mind, I'll invite you to ask your first question.
Yes. How is the breakup between your online books and the printed copy?
Oh, good question. I think last month I sold 2 printed books. Does that answer your question? Oh, I'm not selling printed books. They're all available on Amazon. I barely sell any. And it's frustrating because it costs me a lot of money. Even though I don't have to print the books, I still had to pay to organize to get the covers and to get them all uploaded. I found generally romance readers don't read paper books. The reason is because they're voracious readers. And so they're reading books, as I was just saying before, 1 or 2 books a day. Can you imagine how many books are going to pile up? So I think that a lot of the romance readers have really embraced the ebook. They can, especially with something like Kindle Unlimited, where you can read as many books as you want for $10 a month. And I think that for me, that's where I see most of my readers are reading all my ebooks, not paper books.
Thank you. Susie.
Yes, I'm unmuted. I'd like to ask the question. Your books, you say there must be a happy ending. Operas are romantic, but it never ends happily. There's always a murder or a death. Okay, so, in nearly every single opera.
Yes.
I don't understand it because it's predictable, because we know what the ending's going to be, even the beautiful pearl fishes.
So again,
whatever it may be, Rigoletto, Traviata, whatever it may be.
Okay, so the definition of romance, though, is that the hero and the heroine have to end up together. Okay, so if they don't, it's not a romance, but it could be a love story. So that's the difference. That's what I was just trying to say with a love story. So you can have romantic elements. So you may read books where there is some sort of love interest or a relationship that happens. But if they don't end up together, maybe they come together for a little while and then off they go, then it's not a romance. And so maybe perhaps in operas that we do see some sort of love interest. I'm just trying to think, what's my favorite opera where she dies at the end? Okay, so again, it's not romance because she dies of tuberculosis. What is the one?
Yeah, Darboe.
Yeah, that's it, La Boheme. So that's not, so yes, there's love and like a love story in it, but it's not a romance.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, thanks.
It certainly explains why you like to get lost in romance, though, because it's not the world. It doesn't seem like the world we live in. It's not always a happy ending, but I can see why people would enjoy just
right.
immersing themselves into romance novels. Any other questions?
Tammy.
Yes, Tammy.
Probably not really a question, but I have to admit I don't read a lot, but Joanne's book I do read, and I think it's just that I think it's we all want, I don't think we ever have that, you know, love story that's on TV. I think we all want to have it, but I don't think, you know, Walt Disney, that's just all fake. But we want to have a happy ending, and I think during this time, I mean, it just is so, I don't know, bitter, that it's just nice to just have something that you can pick up and just have control over and just read. And I think because her books are just so real, you can actually relate to them because they're just, oh yeah, I could go and do that, or that could be me. But what I did want to say is that your audio books, because I don't always like to sit and read, but it's nice to be able to sit and listen to something, which I think is great.
Tammy's just gone and revealed the big secret.
I'm on Zoom on my mobile. I wanted to tell you that it's already open, okay?
Okay, so Viv, my mother.
See you soon.
She might need to.
Okay, that's okay. I've worked that.
That's okay.
So, Tammy, thanks for telling us that. So,
Tammy's just
Joanne,
gone and
where do
taken.
we find these books?
Okay, so Tammy's gone and done my big announcement. I have an audio book. That's okay. And Tammy's been amazing because I needed someone to listen to my audio book. So just really quickly, being mindful of time, is that audio books are massive. Lots of people love audio books for different reasons, that instead of reading, they could be listening to a book while they're exercising, while they're doing the housework, apart from the issues of people having issues with their eyesight, when you go on long drives, which we can't do at the moment, but hopefully we will soon, you listen to a book rather than music. And so they are massive. And I've just got my first audio book coming out. They are very, very expensive to produce. Hence, that's why I've only got one at the moment. And then hopefully I'll get some more out. And I think that there's an opportunity. So people are moving away from paper books. That's in the romance sphere. I'm not talking about other genres. They're doing ebooks and they're doing audio books.
So do we go to Amazon to find the printed version, and the audio, is that also through Amazon?
It'll all be also on Amazon. I'm just waiting for it to go through. It's just taken time. I'm just waiting for it to be uploaded. So it's been done. Oh, Paul's got a question.
Well, we are slightly over time, but I appreciate almost everyone stayed with us. So, Joanne, thank you very, very much. I have to say, it's particularly insightful.
Thanks.
And this is a feel-good in a time of quite a bit of darkness, challenge, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Wish you continued success with your writing. It would be remiss of me, since there's a St Kilda Shule function, not to mention things coming up. Firstly, men and women are invited to our morning shacharit at 7:45. Paul, make sure you tell everyone. I'll put in a plug. It's done by Zoom. The address is on our website. Zoom address is on our website or in our newsletter, which is also, by the way, on our website. You won't find us running services on Shabbat, though, I must admit. But pre-Shabbat and post-Shabbat, we've got lots of stuff happening on our Facebook page. Monday night is our annual general meeting, quite an exciting event, and we'll be announcing then the winners of, we'll be announcing the results of the election, if you like. And next Thursday, same time, same channel, 11 a.m, we're going to be having our next Thursday lunch club, which if you haven't yet realised is now a weekly rather than a fortnightly. Next week, we're going to hear from Lily Zamel, who, by the way, is in our care, I suppose in lockdown in our care at the moment, unfortunately. But she's going to speak to us about growing up in Baghdad as a Jewess, moving to Bombay, and then moving to Bondi. I don't know if there was anything, she was specifically looking for an alliteration when she was moving from place to place. but it should be very interesting. That's Thursday Lunch Club, same as Zoom address as we've just used for today. That's 11 a.m. I thank you all for coming, particularly welcome to those from Sydney. Down in Melbourne, we're quite envious of you. But look, no one, thanks, Susie, I saw that.
I saw that too. Can I also thank everyone for
yeah, sure.
joining today, because it was just really nice. And I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for, firstly, thank you for inviting me, Rabbi Figdor and St Kilda Shule, for inviting me to your talk today. And thank you for everyone for taking time out of your day to listen to me speak. That was really nice, and I appreciate the questions and just having everyone's interest. Thank you. That was really, really nice.
Well, thank you, and may all your news be good news. All the very best to everyone for the rest of the day. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Bye.
Bye.